Crisis Report, April 6th, 2025. Not going to be a long one tonight. I've had a busy day getting back into the swing of things after seeing my mother, and that went well. I'll tell you all about that at the end. So for those that care, you can hang out and hear, and those that don't, well, you can move on. But as it pertains to the crisis report, this is kind of a midway addendum. I want to get something out. I don't know. I might be doing one in the morning, or I might be doing one in the afternoon, early evening time, to get back into the morning thing. But of course, being not around and everything, and traveling all over the Mid-Atlantic, it was kind of tough to get things together. But finally got some breathing room and put it together, and here we are. I've got a thing going on. By the way, I don't know what to do with my website. I just renewed it. That's what's been this big question, what I should do with my website. So if you guys have ideas, I just renewed it for the year. I haven't used it in a while, and I don't know what to do with it. You know, it's always been a backup. I have it there in case something goes wrong and I'm taken down or whatever. You know, it's just kind of it's a placeholder. It's a backup. It's got a blog. It's got information. You know, it's a great way to do the links. You go to the PrepperNow.net, and it's all still there. It's got the 5 years of PrepperNow going on. It started in 2021 is when I started the website. I actually have built them for bands, and so that's how I do it. But I don't know what to do with it. So whatever you guys can come up with in the comments of what I could do with this, you know, because I've got SubscribeStar and locals for like the crazy stuff, and those are, you know, pay to enter. And then I've got the, the group or whatever, membership here. So YouTube is the vlog, so I get to do my thing here. And then I used to have the blog on, you know, PrepperNow.net, and I'd put stuff like there's thing from a few years ago on how to build your own solar generator for pretty darn cheap. I don't know. I just don't know what to do with it. So I thought about, you know, maybe making it so if anybody wanted to become a member there, take away membership from like SubscribeStar, locals, and YouTube, and all putting it into the website as a way to support and do everything I do. Because what I do on SubscribeStar and locals, I could just do there, but I don't know. People have accounts and everything, and I don't think they'd feel comfortable like putting their info in, you know. So I'm just kind of like at this, like, I don't know what the heck to do with it. So I will put it out to the community and see what you all think. So, all right, enough blathering on about that. Good to see you. I will be updating people that care about Mama. She is doing well, but we have some things to consider and things to do. But yeah, glad I saw her, and I'm back, and here we are, and I appreciate you being here. The old tube was giving me the business, so, you know, we're not going to grow here. They don't allow you to grow. They just keep you range bound between, I go up by 10, I go down by 10, I go up by 10, I go down by 10, I go up by 10, I go down by 10. Borg, 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 Borg. Here's what we say to Borg. Here we go. Bush. People were jonesing for the Bush. They're like, man, no more Bush in the morning. We've got Bush. We've got Bush. Oh, that's the good stuff. See? In color. All right, we're going with Black Cherry tonight, folks. Let's get started. You've heard me blather on enough. Good to see you here. Borgarino is allowing 50 in, and then as we go, he'll allow more in and put me out into the world a little bit more. So good to have you here. Hit the like buttons and stuff, yada, yada, yada. But let's get started on your crisis report. Pentagon says the Houthis remain unbeatable, according to the New York Times. Pentagon says strikes in Yemen have not been very successful and long-range munitions are running out. which could make the U.S. vulnerable against China. Video came out of the Israeli soldiers executing 14 Red Cross paramedics, clearly marked medical gear and vehicles. Not good. Donald Trump released video showing U.S. targeting tribal gatherings in Yemen, calling them terror. Anti-Trump protests taking place across the United States. Oh my gosh, there are so many people that hate him and want him to blah, blah. Let's get some perspective. Yes, let's do that. Well, ahead of the anti-Trump protests, Democrat Party has basically got an NGO war machine, right? 186 NGOs, unions, and other radical leftist groups have all been supporting this Saturday's mass mobilization and basically what they call rent a protester, okay, in a grassroots mobilization, okay? There's nothing grassroots about it. It's basically, as it says here, old white angry liberals, okay? The idiots that were from the days of peace and love of the late 60s, 70s. These jackasses think that they've got a protest to protest. And so they're coming out and saying, going for it. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow openly boasted about the Democrat Party Color Revolution operation, giving airtime to Ezra Levin of the NGO Indivisible Project, attempted to convince the audience that anti-Musk and anti-Trump protests are organic. But they're actually far-left, billionaire-funded NGOs, closely aligned with the rudderless and imploding Democrat Party, because, again, as I had a conversation with my parents about this, I said, what's going on? I say, well, when we were growing up, if the Democrat Party didn't, or Republican, didn't matter which, got their butts handed to them in a election, they'd go back and they'd say, let's put together a jobs plan. Let's put together an education plan. Let's put together an environmental plan. Let's put together a plan for, women and getting them working or taking care of their children at home or blah, blah, blah. You get the point. They don't do that anymore. They're just like, oh, this is crappy. Let's go burn people's cars down. Okay? That's literally what they say. There's no, let's go back and come up with a viable plan that people want to get behind to make things better. No, it's let's destroy crap, because that's the little infinitesimal sized brain that we have. That's just the creativity that we have. So they've been waging psychological warfare against the American people, framed as grassroots, gaslighting, more like it, party of hate and violence, and that's what they are now. Evident in the Tesla takedown, color revolution aimed at killing Tesla to pressure Elon Musk on Doge. It's been building momentum in recent weeks to segue into anti-Trump protests this weekend. The goal is to manufacture the illusion that Trump is wildly unpopular, leveraging a vast network of dark money-funded NGOs, USAID, that supply rent to protesters to rallies nationwide. They've looked at cell phone data. Okay? The people in the cell phones and the data there, it's all the same people. They've got buses that come in with posters pre-made and everything else. They get out, they go and they do their thing. They make their money from basically, whatever slush fund that's coming from the shitocrat party. And then they go and they bitch and piss and moan. CNN flies overhead and covers it, says, oh, look how many people. And then 22 minutes after the thing is over, they're back on the buses and they're out of there. And there's video all over Twitter X about it. You don't have to go far. These are fabricated, not organic. There's nothing about them that is grassroots by any stretch of the imagination. There's just nothing. Okay? It's the same people doing the same crap, same. And you know what? I'm personally tired of it, because I think we need two parties in this system. I think we need two viable choices. Okay? But if one is just baddish crazy and their whole their whole thing to get you to come onto their side is just to destroy crap, I'm not buying it. I don't care. I'm not into it. So, it's not like the Republican Party is much better. They're just like less crappy, It's like I mean, honestly, the Republican Party of today is just the Democrat Party of the 1990s. So, it is what it is. At least they're like trying to come up with something. They're like, hey, we're trying to get rid of waste and fraud in the government. Okay, that's something. We're 37 billion, billion, I wish, $37 trillion in debt. Okay, that's something. I've got children. I'd like to see them have a country that can function financially. But if your party's whole thing is just to sit there and take a big fat dump on the country and burn flags and wave their fingers and tell us how crappy everything is, well, I don't think that is America. I think America's a pretty darn good place, to be honest. I've been all over. No, we're not perfect. We got plenty of problems. But we're a heck of a lot better than what's going on over in Europe, I'll tell you that much. A lot of places in Asia you wouldn't want to live. A lot of places in Africa, a lot of places in South America. America's not that bad in comparison to most other places. Not all. There's some better places, but not by much. So, these people coming out and basically want to destroy and tear down, the country or whatever. It's like, okay, well, what are you offering? What do you see? Because as far as I'm concerned, all I'm seeing is Cloward and Piven. They're just trying to make everything just crap the bed. So, all right, rant off. Gene W., thanks for modding and being awesome and a member and all that. Yes, as she said, please consider joining the membership. It does help keep the dogs of Borg off the back. So, U.S. has spent over $1 billion bombing Yemen in the name of Israel since March 15th. Hundreds of millions were spent on JASSM, JSOW, and Tomahawk cruise missiles targeting Yemeni military sites. Kevin Grip, you are the OG, dude. You're the best. One source admits that that billions of dollars have been burned for nothing. They destroyed some sites, but didn't affect the Houthis' ability to operate in the Red Sea or shoot down American drones because they live in caves. I mean, let's just be honest. It's kind of tough to take out cavemen. In Australia, there are no tariffs on Chinese EVs and BYD. BYD robots greet Australian customers with drinks at a showroom. Sales of Tesla in Australia tumbled 53% in March and are down 60% quarter one of 2024, because why would you want to have a fully functioning tested vehicle from America when you can have a rolling EV Chinese crap box that spies on your every move? That's what you want. You want the Chinese EV, okay? Go for it. Trump addressed Americans on his social media truth and warned them of difficult times ahead. He said there was an economic revolution underway. It would not be easy, but the U.S. would ultimately achieve a historic result. He also said China had suffered the most from U.S. tariffs, and the U.S. was not even close. Jeffrey Lindquist, thank you very much. Trump's tariffs send the U.S. economy into recession. Republicans could face a bloodbath in 2026. This is stated by Republican Senator Ted Cruz, Financial Times. Texas Senator also predicted a terrible fate for the U.S. economy if a full-scale trade war breaks out and retaliatory tariffs against American goods remain in place for long term. Publication notes that Cruz usually supports Trump, and his words became the sharpest warning from a member of the president's party since the announcement of the super tariffs. India is going to negotiate a new balanced trade deal with the United States to avoid President Trump's tariffs. Oh, okay. It's not bad. European Union has retaliated against Trump's tariffs by slapping $28 billion worth of U.S. imports with new tariffs. Enjoy your $15 a pound pork, as if you watch Survival Lily's latest video, go check that out. She lays out just how absolutely inexpensive everything is in the European Union. I'll be figuring that out in 2 months. Jim Cramer, warning, Black Monday style market crash on Monday. Will be a market crash tomorrow by minus 22%. That's according to this Megatron guy, but he hates Trump, so we don't know. Vietnam has sent a letter to Trump offering to eliminate all tariffs on U.S. imports in response to the decision to impose the 46% tariff on Vietnamese goods. Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei has put the Iranian armed forces on high alert against the backdrop possible U.S. military operation, according to Reuters. 200 million liquidated from cryptocurrency market in the past 60 minutes. Canada's Prime Minister Carney says after 80 years, the U.S. is no longer an economic leader. Netanyahu lands in the United States ahead of his meeting with Trump tomorrow. Israeli military announced that it will allow civilians to cross the border fence with Syria and join guided tours inside a restricted military zone during the upcoming Passover holiday. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde says Europe must end its reliance on American and Chinese technology. Digital payments in particular should be under our control. The release of another batch of prisoners by the YPJ, PKK, SDF, and the Syrian government was scheduled for today. It was canceled after the YPG, PKK, SDF refused to release SNA fighters. Trump's meeting with Netanyahu at the White House tomorrow. Red Cross spokesperson said in Gaza to Al Jazeera, "We are no longer able to continue providing our services to Gaza due to the threats." Ukraine's GUR chief Budanov says if person is not in front and does not help in rear, then he has no right to call himself citizen of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. Elon Musk, I know someone's going to be taken in the rear. Elon Musk said that he hoped that Europe and the United States would agree to a zero tariff situation, which would create a de facto free trade zone spanning the Atlantic Ocean. Thousands marched in Rome against the EU's $800 billion armament plan. Protesters chanted, "We need new hospitals, not missiles." Now that's a protest I can get behind. Thousands of Americans flooded Boston streets in anti-Trump protests. "A threat to democracy. It's a threat. Give me my $100 to show up on a white bus and get out and protest against Trump because he's a threat to our democracy." That is one of 1,200 rallies across 50 states. We had one in downtown lovely Hagerstown, Maryland. I think it was about 45 ex-hippie idiot boomers that were sitting out there pissing and moaning because they didn't have the wherewithal or intelligence to actually work a productive life or job during their 50 years of employment. And now because they're sucking the teat of government, they get to go piss and moan on Main Street, USA and say, you know, "Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money?" Maybe if your jackass would have gotten an actual job with like a pension or a 401k, you wouldn't be relying on the fucking government, idiot. Pardon my French. Iranian President Pezeshkian. Iran wants dialogue with the United States, but it must take place on an equal footing and not under threat. Wall Street editorial board, Wall Street Journal. Trump's global trade war is a strategic gift to the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Xi has long seen the West as weak and divided. This week confused it and barely needs to act to exploit it. Kamala Harris on the protests against Trump. "The voices of working people will always be louder than the unelected billionaires." United States Secretary of State Rubio says, "I'm taking actions to revoke all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders to restrict any further issuance, prevent entry into the United States, effective immediately due to the failure of South Sudan's transitional government to accept the return of its repatriated citizens in a timely manner." The United States reportedly transferred a second THAAD missile defense battery to Israel. American C-5M Super Galaxy, the United States Air Force's largest transport plane, landed in Nevatim Air Base in southern Israel yesterday. Israel detained British MPs Yuan Yang and Abtissam Mohammed denying them entry over suspicions they aim to document Israeli security forces and spread anti-Israel narratives. UK Foreign Secretary Lammy condemned the move as unacceptable and deeply concerning. Britain, together with the United States, successfully tested a hypersonic rocket engine, the UK Ministry of Defense has announced. Iran issued warnings to Iraq, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Turkey, and Bahrain, stating that any support for the United States attack on Iran, including allowing the U.S. of their airspace or territory by the U.S. military, will be considered an act of hostility, according to Reuters. Taiwan will not impose reciprocal tariffs against the United States. Interesting. Let's see. So you got the European Union, and then India, 1.4 billion. Taiwan, 10, 20 million. Let's see, who else? Vietnam, there's like 25, 30 million there. Now, it was one of the last one we got there. So there's a big number coming. I got it. We'll just wait. Israel wants Syria to be carved up into 4 spheres of influence, says analyst Ramban Yishai. Turkey is in the north, U.S. in the east, Russia on western coast, and Israel in the south. Fatah and Hamas have called for a general strike in the West Bank against Israeli aggression. United States Treasury Secretary Bessent, on the stock market drop, said it is a short-term reaction, and United States National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says more than 50 countries have already reached out to the White House to begin trade negotiations because, well, it's beneficial to them. You know, there's people that think that he's doing this to basically cause recessionary pressures because 2 things will happen. It'll bring interest rates down, which will help with loans. And the other thing is that it will bring inflation down. So we'll just have to see. I hope he's right. I hope what he's doing is good. But, 88% of the stock market is basically owned by the top 10% of the country. So most people are not really affected by all this. I mean, they're affected if it gets to their job, but it's not like, the lady that's sitting there protesting in downtown Main Street, USA against Doge is watching her Nvidia shares tank. It's not happening. Iranian MP Mohammad Qasim Osmani calls for the rapid creation of nuclear weapons in an emotional speech. Nuclear knowledge, considering all the costs the country has incurred for it, should come to the rescue everywhere, especially in the field of security, since today nuclear knowledge should lead us to conduct negotiations on equal terms. Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei placed Iran's armed forces on high alert after Trump's recent threats, according to Reuters. Zelensky says the pressure on Russia is still insufficient, and daily Russian attacks on Ukraine prove this. The number of aerial assaults is increasing. This is how Russia reveals its true intentions: to continue terrorizing as long as the world allows it. United States Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says tariffs are going to stay in place for days and weeks. There's no postponing them. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also said we had to include Penguin Island in the tariffs in case some countries try to use it as a loophole. Heard and McDonald Island were famously touted last week as being islands where only penguins lived. So obviously they thought, well, they might do something through these islands or claim that they're doing it, and to circumvent the tariffs. Tariff turmoil has hit the global markets hard. Trump's tariffs triggered major sell-offs. S&P 500 is down 10.53%. Dow Jones has shed 2,200 points. European and Asian markets feeling the pressure. Satellite images showing hundreds of Egyptian tanks on the Philadelphia axis on the Egyptian side. Not good. Hey, look at that. Zimbabwe will suspend tariffs on U.S. imports. Taiwan's top security official, Joseph Wu, is in Washington for secret special channel talks with the Trump administration. It's the first use of the back channel since Trump returned to office, according to FT. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. The question people should wonder is, why is the U.S. so pressed to put Bitcoin into the equation? And the market perspective, the onset of the 2000 dot-com bubble burst looks like peanuts compared to what is going on right now. The magnificent seven shed 4.5 trillion in market cap since December peak, or 28%. By comparison, the total value lost in the 2022 bear market was 5.5 trillion in 12 months. And finally, the futures are coming out. United States stock futures opened sharply lower late on Sunday, suggesting a continuation of the two-day sell-off wiped out trillions from equity values after the Trump administration tariffs announcement last week. Investors had been anticipating another week of turbulence as global trading partners react. Harsher than expected tariffs. U.S. S&P 500 E-minis stock futures were last down 4%. Dow E-minis were down 3.8%. NASDAQ 100 E-minis were down 4.6% as they opened up for Sunday trading in the futures markets. And that, my friends, is your crisis report for Sunday, April 6th, 2025. I'd like to appreciate you. Any thoughts you have on my website. For those that are giving a crap about my mom, and if you don't, I fully understand. You don't know her. If you did, you'd probably think she's a sweet old lady. She is doing much better, but we're having conversations on what to do with their future. We want to move them up to us. They are a few hours south in Virginia. They're close to my brother, but he is still busy working. He's an empty nester. He's older than me, and he's got a job that takes him on the road a lot. So it's tough for him to be there. And we think with my mom, who's now starting to show some signs of cognitive decline, did very well recovering from the broken hip, all things considered, especially when you know that 2 out of 5 people that have this in their 80s, like she does, just don't make it. They die. So she was walking with a cane. She's up and around. She's doing really well. It was extremely awesome to hug her and love on her and just say, I hope you're feeling better, and just spend a 24-hour period with my mom and my dad, who I love very much. But my dad came up to me when she wasn't around and basically said, I need help. So we're going to see what we can do about that. And I would love to get him on this show sometime. He's an extremely special man. He was the son of abuse. His dad was extremely cruel to him, and my dad never played that out on my brother and I. He was always good. He worked hard. He raised a good family. He did everything he was supposed to do. He was honest to a fault. And I want him close. I want to be with him as long as I can, because I love him more than life itself. I'm lucky to have him as my father. And I'm lucky to have my mother as my mother. So for those that had good parents and they're not around anymore, God bless you. I get it. I get it. For those that still have parents that are around and, they're getting up there in age, do everything you can to be with them, to see them. I've got a lot going on, obviously. I don't have to tell you all about that, but I'm just blessed to still have them in my life. And I want to extend, like I told my wife, I want them to be around as long as possible, because I want my kids to know them, because I am an older father. And I just want my children, especially my son, my 6-year-old, I want him to know his grandfather. My daughter asked me, and I'll close on this, about a week ago. She said, if you could talk to anyone that is not around anymore. I looked her straight in the eye without a moment's thought, and I said, I'd love to talk to my grandfather. one more time, because I was in about 8th grade when he passed away. And I would give anything, and I mean anything, to have 1 hour with him on a park bench just to talk to him as a man. All right, folks, you got people out there that you love. Go tell them you love them. Be good with your families. Be good with yourselves. If you're not and you're, struggling with some of that family stuff, which is very common, don't feel left out, I'm sure there's good people around you that can at least have a good conversation with you. And, don't be alone. Sometimes families aren't great. I'm very blessed. Sometimes families aren't great. So do whatever you can to make it so you got good people in your life. And if it's not your family, I'm sure you can find someone else. There's tons of great people out there in the world. There really are. So, and this is a great country, as I was saying before. There's plenty of people out there that'll go out of their way to help you. So, all right, friends, God bless. See you on the next one. And, they'll probably go tomorrow afternoon, evening. I'm thinking like 4:30, 5 o'clock. We'll probably bust out the next one, and then I'll get back on the morning tip with everything. So I really appreciate you being here. God bless you all, and PrepperNow will be going live here in a little bit. Thanks so much.